Hi, I'm Doug here at Global West, and we're in the back of the shop right now, and there's a couple things I want to talk to you about. Now, we've had a lot of people talk to us about, well, I've got your control arms, what have you, and I would like to install an offset shaft, because our control arms, there's only one control arm we make that actually has an offset shaft. That's standard. All the other ones are straight shafts, because we build all the bells and whistles into the tubular arms. So this is a straight shaft, and what I want you to look is at the center line of the shaft to where the bushing is. That's what this area is right here. This is an offset in this hand. You see how this is offset to where the shaft is? Okay, now why would we do an offset shaft? Offset shafts allow us to have more latitude in our alignment. And we use those for drag racing purposes, road racing, street, and they're really nice if you've got a problem with your frame. Now, everybody doesn't have problems with their frame or whatever, but the nice thing about running an offset shaft is that it gives you the extra latitude to get more caster into the car and still maintain camber. It's for alignment purposes. Sometimes you run into a situation on these older cars where you actually do have a frame problem and you need that offset shaft to fix it. So this particular video is going to be on how to install an offset shaft in one of our control arms. So we're going to show you how to take that bushing out and get the shaft out, put the new offset shaft in, and lock it down, because we've had a lot of requests on how do you do that. So we're going to take a minute and show you how. So right here we have on the table, this is a CTA 42A. Now we don't have the ball joint in it, we don't have the bump stop in it. We have the shaft already installed, and this is the way you would normally get them. Now remember, it's with a straight shaft. It's not with an offset. And by the way, if you knew you had a frame problem, you can order this with the offset shaft. You just got to call us, and we'll actually send it to you ready to go. So what I'm going to show you here is exactly how to take this apart. What we're going to do is we're going to be pulling these cotter pins off. Okay. Going to take the nuts off both sides. Then what we're going to do is we're going to remove the thrust washers, the steel and the plastic on both sides. You're going to remove that. Okay. And what we're also going to do is we're going to remove the zerk fitting on the side that we're going to press the bushing out of. It doesn't matter which side you pick, so we're going to go ahead and remove that. Okay, so now we're ready to go to the press. But here's something I want to show you. We use a tube like this, and you notice I just pulled the bushing out of it. This is 1 3/4 outside dimension. It's 2 1/4 inches long, and it's 1/2 O-wall. And that's perfect, because if you notice, this is the bushing that's in the control arm, and this drops right in here. Okay? It actually works perfect. So we designed this arm and this bushing assembly so that if you ever want to take them out, you just pop this on here and it self-indexes on the bushing. And what we're going to do is we're going to stand this up in the press like this, and you're going to press on the shaft on this end down through. You will not press here. If you pressed on the arm here in any way, shape, or form, you will compress this area here and you'll damage the control arm. You never want to do across the arm. So let's go to the press and let me show you how this comes apart. So if you'll notice, now when I'm pressing this down, you see our tube down here, and it goes around the bushing, and we're going to press on the shaft, not the control arm. It's not going to hurt the shaft at all. And the load's going to go through the shaft, and it's going to go against our thrust washers, which can handle this with no trouble whatsoever, and it's going to push this bushing out and not damage anything. So let's go ahead and do that. You see this is maintaining, there's no problems here whatsoever. Okay, so I've pressed the shaft down and I've come down to the bushing. All right, I don't want to go any further because we don't want to compress on the control arm. So I'm going to release this. And I've got a small little dowel here that we'll put right on top of that shaft to push it the last little distance. So it's going to sit here like this. It's small enough to go inside the insert because you don't need to press on the insert. And we're going to finish it off. And there you go. The bushing is now out of the control arm. See how nice that comes out? Okay, so now what we're going to do, there's the bushing, and the bushing is not damaged. You haven't damaged anything at all. Now this whole assembly is going to come apart. So let's go to the bench and we'll show you how this goes. Okay, so you can see how the shaft easily comes out. Here's our steel washer, thrust washer, inserts. Same thing on this side. Now we're going to change the shaft out. So I'll just pop this off, both sides. The stock shaft comes out. Now we have the offset shaft. What we're going to do is you want to have the global west, so when you read it, it's going to be upright, proper. And then when you flip it, if you had to go the other direction, depending on which offset you needed, all the writing will be upright as well. So we normally put the global west up towards the engine side and up. You're going to slide it through here. You're going to put your steel thrust washer, and then you're going to use your plastic thrust washer to slide that in. You're going to go all the way through, okay? And then on the other side, we're going to do the same thing. Steel washer first. Thrust washer, okay? And then we're going to press this bushing back in the housing. And we want to line it up right here with where the grease zerk was. So let's go back to the press and let's show you how that's going to work. Okay, we're back to the press. Now what I want to show you is our press tool, or part of our fixture. The base plate looks like this, and you see how we've got this notch cut out? Now the reason why we do that is because when we press the bushing in, the shaft goes in this notch. So when you do your press work, you've got to make sure that the arm is supported properly and that the shaft is allowed to move freely in between, okay? So we got the notch here. Let me get the arm. See how that drops in there? And what we're going to do is we're going to line up this hole with that hole, okay, and press it back in, just like that. Okay? Okay. We're all down. Okay? See how nice the shaft turns and it doesn't wobble around? Okay, let's go back to the bench. Okay, so we got it all together. Now what we're going to do is take some grease, and like I say, we use Neo grease here. We're going to put grease inside the housings. Put grease inside the inserts. Kind of a messy sort of little job here, but we want to make sure there's plenty of grease inside there. We're going to take our outer thrust washers. They go on next. Our steel washers. These are the thrust washers. And we're going to put our nuts back, the slotted hex nuts back on. And we're going to go ahead and run these down real quick. Go ahead and put our grease fitting back in. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to set the preload on the bushing. These bushings are set similar to like a wheel bearing. So what we're going to do is we're going to tighten this down and set the bushing so that there's no clearances between your thrust washers and the housing of the bushing. It's taking all the clearances out. So we're actually going to tighten it down, similar to what you would do for setting a bearing on a wheel bearing. And we're going to back it all the way off. Okay. We're going to bring it back down so we have thrust contact, no air gaps, and I'm going to do 1/8 of a turn, one flat on a nut. That's it. That sets the preload on the bushing. No more is required. That's all you need. We'll do the same thing on this side. Back it off. Okay, there's just thrust is all taken up, no air gaps. 1/8 of a turn. There you go. It's all set. Moves nice and free, and that's what we want, okay? So, the only last thing we have to do here is we got to drill and put cotter pin these back in the shaft. Remember, we took them out of the straight shaft, but now we got to reinstall into the offset shaft. The reason why we do that is because there's not a lot of torque on this because it's not required. And by setting this, you're setting it just like a wheel bearing. And when you cotter pin it, this nut will always stay with that amount of preload. It won't back off. If you don't do that, this nut will back off when it's on the vehicle going over bumps and suspension movement, okay? If you try to use a standard lock nut, whether it's a nylock or a crimp lock nut of any kind, it will eventually back off as well. The best way to handle this is cotter pin it. So let's go to the drill. We'll show you how to do that and get this finished. We're going to drill an 1/8 inch hole through the shaft here so we can cotter pin it, okay? So this is how we do it. We're all set to cotter pin. There we have it. Now we've got our offset shaft installed. This will rotate either direction. It's ready to go back on the car.